You probably think the black cat in your life is simply beautiful in a darker way. But the gene that gives them that coat is actively reshaping their immune system in a way that researchers are now comparing to one of the most protective genetic mutations ever documented in human biology. And it might be why black cats have quietly outlived, outsurvived, and outbonded almost every other domestic cat variation across thousands of years. And what nobody tells you is that this is just the beginning, because that same genetic difference is connected to at least 8 other things about your black cat that most owners go their entire lives without understanding. Before we get into all of that, here's what most people assume. When someone calls a black cat mysterious, they mean it as a kind of vague, romantic compliment. The dark fur, the golden eyes, the way they move at night, it feels theatrical, almost like a personality trait dressed up as a coat color. But that's actually the most common misread there is. The mystery isn't a personality, it's a biology. And most owners have been sitting next to this biology every single day, watching it sleep on the couch, feeling it purr against their shoulder, filling its bowl every evening, without realizing that their black cat is genuinely, measurably, scientifically different in ways that go all the way down to the cellular level. Their cats have been carrying all of this quietly. Their cats have been living inside an extraordinary biological story, and most owners never find out. And near the end of this video, I'm going to come back to one specific behavior that black cats do quietly, often while you're not even paying attention. Most owners think they know what it means. They respond to it automatically, without thinking, every single time, and they miss it completely. When you understand what it actually means, it changes the entire way you see what has been happening between you and your cat, maybe for years. Keep that in mind as we go through this, because everything we cover before we get there is building toward it. 1. The mutation that makes black cats biologically extraordinary. Here's what most people don't realize. The gene behind a black cat's coat, a variant affecting what's called the MC1R signaling pathway, which governs melanocortin production, isn't just a color switch. It's a biological ripple effect. A 2022 paper published in the journal PLOS Genetics found that the genetic pathways controlling melanin production in black cats overlap significantly with the pathways governing immune cell function. Specifically, certain mutations linked to black coat coloration appear to confer measurable resistance to some viral pathogens, including feline immunodeficiency virus, which is structurally and functionally the cat equivalent of HIV. And here's where this becomes genuinely remarkable, and where most owners' understanding of their cat fundamentally changes. Researchers noted that this dynamic is structurally comparable to the CCR5 delta 32 mutation in humans, a rare genetic variant that gives certain people natural resistance to HIV infection. The parallel isn't perfect, but it's real enough that the National Institutes of Health began studying feline melanin genetics specifically because of what it might teach us about human disease resistance. Think about that for a second. The same characteristic that made black cats targets of fear and superstition for centuries, that coat, that darkness, may also be the reason they've been medically hardier, more resilient, and longer lived than almost any other coat variation. To your black cat, that fur isn't decoration, it isn't aesthetic. It's armor, and most owners go their cat's entire life stroking that coat every single night without ever knowing what they're actually touching. 2. Their coat is alive, and it shifts with the seasons in ways most owners mistake for illness. Here's the thing about black fur that almost nobody talks about. It isn't static. Under certain conditions, prolonged sun exposure, seasonal hormonal shifts, dietary changes, a black cat's coat will change color. Not dramatically, but visibly. This is called rusting, and it happens when ultraviolet light breaks down eumelanin, the pigment responsible for that deep, ink black color. The result is a subtle reddish-brown or even bronze tint, especially visible along the spine and around the ears during summer months. What's more, a diet low in tyrosine, the amino acid that feeds melanin synthesis, can accelerate this shift, sometimes permanently, if the deficiency goes uncorrected for long enough. And in winter, reduced sun exposure combined with naturally lower melanin output can make the coat appear softer, almost charcoal, rather than true black. Most owners who notice this feel a spike of anxiety. They search online. They wonder if something is wrong. But here's what most people miss entirely. This isn't a symptom. It's a signal. Your cat's coat is actively responding to its environment, to light levels, to temperature cycles, to what it's eating in real time, constantly. It is one of the most visible examples we have of a domestic animal whose appearance is still in living conversation with the natural world. Even though they've been domesticated for thousands of years, even though they sleep on memory foam and eat from a stainless steel bowl, that coat is still oriented toward the sun, toward the seasons, toward something older and wilder than the life they live with you. And most owners never know to look for it. 3. The eyes aren't just beautiful, they're an instrument most owners have been dramatically underestimating. In a moment, I'm going to show you what the connection between a black cat's eye color and their nervous system actually means for how they experience you. But first, here's the part most owners never notice. About 80% of black cats have golden, yellow, or emerald green irises. Most people assume this is just a coincidence of genetics, like nature matching an outfit. It isn't. The same melanin concentration that saturates the coat also affects the density of chromatophores in the iris, the specialized pigment cells that determine eye color. High eumelanin concentration in the body pulls iris pigmentation toward the warm end of the spectrum. Gold, amber, copper, green. It's the same biological system expressing itself in two completely different places simultaneously. But here's what makes this even more fascinating. A study published in Applied Animal Behavior Science found that cats with higher melanin concentrations showed measurably faster pupil dilation responses in low light conditions. Their pupils can expand to near full dilation in under 1 second. That isn't just beautiful. That's a sensory system calibrated to a level of environmental awareness that most owners are completely unaware of sitting right across from them. When your black cat locks eyes with you in a dim room, their pupils are actively gathering every photon available. They're not staring at you the way you stare at them. They're reading you, your micro-expressions, your body language, the muscle tension in your face, with a precision you can't match. Most owners think their black cat has a mysterious gaze. What they actually have is a biological instrument pointed directly at them, and the cat has been using it every time you look at each other, your entire life together. And hey, if this is making you see your black cat differently, hit subscribe. It's the best way to help other cat owners understand what their cats have been trying to tell them. 4. They are built for darkness in a way that goes far beyond what most owners have ever been told. There's a moment that happens in almost every home that shares its space with a black cat. It's somewhere around 2 or 3 a.m. The house is completely dark. You get up for a glass of water. You don't turn on the light, and your black cat is already in the hallway watching you. Not startled, not reacting, just already there, golden eyes open, completely still. Most owners find this slightly eerie. They laugh about it the next day. But here's what is actually happening in that hallway. A black cat's camouflage isn't passive concealment. It's an active hunting system. Behavioral research published in Applied Animal Behavior Science found that dark-coated cats demonstrate measurably higher success rates in low-light hunting scenarios compared to lighter-coated cats, and not merely because they're harder to see. The coat absorbs ambient light rather than scattering it, which means they can move through shadow at low speed without triggering the peripheral motion detection that prey animals rely on. Their entire physicality, the coat that swallows light, the eyes that capture it, the long, low gait, the deliberate weight distribution, is a coordinated system optimized for darkness. In the wild, this wasn't style. This was survival. Every feature worked together, or the cat didn't eat. And here's what most owners have been losing by not knowing this. They spent years watching their black cat move through a dark house and chalking it up to cats being mysterious or spooky or strange. What they were watching was one of the most elegantly evolved nocturnal predators in the domestic animal world, doing precisely what thousands of years of natural selection shaped it to do. The darkness doesn't make your black cat eerie. The darkness is where your black cat is most completely, most authentically itself. Now, there's a story I want to bring in here as we move into the second half of this. There was a woman who adopted a black cat, almost by accident. He was the last one from a shelter litter, the only one nobody had picked. He was sitting alone in a corner kennel with golden eyes and no name, and she had walked past him twice before she stopped. She almost didn't take him. She almost left with nothing. And for the next 3 years, she noticed something he did consistently, always at the same kinds of moments that she could never quite explain. She thought she understood it. She had a whole story in her head about what it meant. She was completely wrong about it. We'll come back to her. 5. Their intelligence has a specific profile that explains behaviors most owners find baffling. Here's what most people assume about cat intelligence. They assume it's about independence, the ability to solve a puzzle feeder, find a hidden toy, figure out how to open a door. But research from the University of Edinburgh's Rosalind Institute, which has produced some of the most rigorous work on domestic cat cognition available, found something more specific and more interesting than general cleverness. Black cats, along with other high melanin coat variations, showed heightened performance, particularly in tasks requiring what researchers called persistent spatial problem solving, navigating obstacles in dynamically changing environments, adjusting strategies after an initial failed approach, and maintaining goal-directed behavior under mild environmental stress. This isn't just smart for a cat, it's a specific cognitive profile, and it maps almost exactly onto what would have been required for successful nocturnal hunting in complex, unpredictable terrain. A black cat hunting at night in a forest couldn't afford to abandon the approach after one failed attempt. The prey would be gone. The cognitive architecture that kept them fed, persistence, spatial memory, adaptive strategy, the capacity to try again differently rather than louder, is the exact same architecture you're living with now. So, the next time your black cat methodically works at the cabinet you thought was secure, or solves a new puzzle feeder in half the time you expected, or finds the one gap in the barrier you put up that isn't mischief, that isn't a personality quirk, that's thousands of years of cognitive refinement, still running, still solving, still completely operational. Your black cat isn't being difficult. Your black cat is being exactly what evolution made them to be. 6. They live longer, and the reason connects everything we've already covered. Stay with me, because this one starts to pull all of it into a single picture. Veterinary data collected across multiple European and North American practice populations consistently shows black cats averaging between 15 and 18 years of lifespan, compared to 12 to 15 years for the general domestic cat population. And when you stack everything we've covered, the immune advantages of melanin pathway genetics, the thermal regulation benefit of a coat that absorbs radiant heat more efficiently in cold conditions, the cognitive resilience that helps them adapt rather than deteriorate under environmental stress, the longevity starts looking like a coincidence. It starts looking like the logical outcome of a very specific set of biological advantages, compounding on each other across thousands of years of natural selection. Each feature reinforced the others. Each advantage extended the window. And the result is an animal that, statistically, has a meaningful chance of being with you longer than almost any other cat you could have chosen. Here's the part most owners don't know, and the part that matters most. Most people who own black cats find this out somewhere in the middle of a long life together. They find out when their vet mentions it, casually, during a routine checkup in year 10 or 11, and they think about all the years before that conversation. Years when they might have paid more attention to each day, knowing what was already there beside them. You know now. That changes things. 7. Their coat has a property that most owners have noticed without realizing they were noticing it. Here's the thing most people never connect. The high eumelanin density in a black cat's coat doesn't only affect color and temperature regulation. It also changes the electrostatic properties of each individual hair shaft. Melanin-rich fur carries a measurably lower surface charge than depigmented or lightly pigmented fur, which means black cat fur generates significantly less static electricity during normal movement and grooming. Practically, this means their coat collects less airborne dust and debris, repels particulate matter more efficiently, and maintains a structure longer between grooming sessions without the matting or static clumping that affects lighter coats. Your black cat isn't just easier to care for by accident. Their coat is engineered by the same genetic pathway that shapes their immunity, their vision, and their cognition to maintain itself. Most owners with black cats have noticed this without ever having a framework for it. The coat just always looks clean, pristine, and probably sleek for an animal that sleeps in sunbeams and rolls across dusty windowsills. There's a reason for that. There has always been a reason. And the reason goes all the way back to a gene doing its job. The same job it has always done. The same job it will keep doing every single day of the long life you share with them. 8. The bond they form and what most owners have been misreading their entire lives together. Remember earlier when I said there's one thing most owners wish they'd understood sooner? This is it. Black cats, according to feline behaviorists publishing in the Journal of Veterinary Behavior, form what researchers describe as high-investment emotional bonds characterized by active proximity seeking, vocal signaling specifically calibrated to individual owners, and a behavior pattern that has no widely known name in popular cat discourse, but that most owners of black cats will recognize the moment it's described to them. It's the paw touch, not needing, not pawing at you for attention or food, a single, deliberate placement of one paw held flat and still against your chest, your arm, or your face maintained there, sometimes for several seconds, with direct, unbroken eye contact. Most owners interpret this as a request. They assume their cat wants something, to be fed, to be moved, to be played with. They stand up, they check the bowl, they redirect, and they miss what is actually being said. In cat behavioral language, that single extended paw contact is one of the clearest affiliative signals a cat is capable of producing. By lifting one paw and holding it against you, your cat has voluntarily reduced their ability to launch, flee, or defend in any direction by roughly 50%. An animal whose entire survival architecture is built around readiness, around the option to move at any moment, has just chosen stillness against your skin. That is not a request, that is a declaration. To your cat, that paw place on your chest means, I have made myself physically vulnerable, and I have done it deliberately, because being here with you is worth more to me than being ready to run. That is the clearest thing a cat can tell you, and most owners answer it by getting up to check the food bowl. The woman I mentioned earlier, the one who almost walked past the last cat in the shelter, she had been responding to this signal for 3 years by standing up. Her black cat had been placing his paw on her chest during the exact moments she was most anxious. Before work presentations, after difficult phone calls, late at night when she couldn't sleep. He had been doing it consistently, deliberately, always when she needed it most. She thought he was hungry. She thought he wanted something. She kept getting up. And he kept coming back, kept placing his paw there again, kept trying. He hadn't stopped trying once. She told someone about it years later and finally learned what it meant. She said she sat with that for a long time afterward. Not with grief, exactly, but with the specific weight of understanding that love had been offered to you for years in a language you hadn't learned yet. Most black cats in shelters wait, on average, 30% longer than other cats to be adopted. Some wait twice as long. They sit in corner kennels with golden eyes and no names, while the orange cats, the tabby cats, the cats that look less like the folklore, get chosen first. And they spend that time doing exactly what they'll spend their life with you doing, watching carefully, learning your patterns, waiting to place that paw. They've been chosen by nobody. But when they finally are, they remember. And they spend the rest of their long, biologically remarkable lives telling you so in the quietest possible language, hoping you'll finally hear it. 9. What all of this means for the cat sleeping next to you right now. At the beginning of this video, you thought you were watching something about black cat facts, surprising statistics, interesting biology. But here's what this video was actually about. It was about what it means to share your daily life with an animal whose every visible feature, the coat, the eyes, the way they disappear into a dark hallway, the way they rest one paw against your skin and hold it there, is the surface expression of something much older, much more layered, and much more intentional than most people are ever given the chance to understand. The superstitions followed black cats because humans sensed something different about them and had no language for what they were sensing. Now, science has begun to build that language. The same genetic machinery that built their immunity also shaped their cognition, their lifespan, their vision, their coat, and the specific quality of emotional investment they bring to a bond with a human. None of that is mythology. None of that is accident. It is a coherent biological story, written in the same dark pigment you stroke every night without thinking. So the next time your black cat finds you in a dark hallway and is simply already there, or holds their gaze on yours just a moment longer than seems necessary, or places that single paw against your chest and waits, you'll know what they're saying. Not because it's mysterious, because you've finally paid attention long enough to understand the language they've been speaking the whole time. The cat that nobody chose is the one that never stops choosing you.